She opened the car door on Christmas Eve thinking it was her ride home. The locks clicked shut. The driver turned around, and Sally Carey realized three terrifying things at once. This wasn't her car, this wasn't her driver, and the man behind the wheel was Jeffrey Walls, the Mafia boss whose face she'd seen on the news. When he said, "You're not leaving," her old life ended and a dangerous new one began. This is the story of how one wrong car on the loneliest night of the year changed everything. Before we start this absolutely insane story, you need to subscribe right now because what happens in the next 8 chapters will have you on the edge of your seat. A woman gets in the wrong car, realizes it's a mafia boss, and instead of letting her go, he decides she's staying. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you're about to witness the most intense Christmas Eve in history. Let's go. Christmas Eve in Chicago, the loneliest night. Imagine working a double shift on Christmas Eve while the entire world celebrates with people who love them. That's Sally Carey's reality. She's 28 years old, waiting tables at Murphy's Diner on Michigan Avenue, serving families who barely see her, leaving tips that barely cover her studio rent in a neighborhood where gunshots are more common than carolers. Sally has no family, raised in foster care, aged out at 18, been surviving on her own ever since. No boyfriend, no close friends, just the relentless grind of bills and loneliness punctuated by the occasional hope that maybe next year will be different. Tonight, she finishes her shift at midnight. The diner manager gives her a sympathetic smile and a $50 Christmas bonus that feels more like pity than generosity. Sally pulls her threadbare coat tight against the December wind and orders a rideshare home. The app says, gray Toyota Camry. Driver, Ramon. For minute ETA. But when a sleek black Mercedes pulls up to the curb, Sally's exhausted brain makes a simple, fatal assumption. The app must have updated the vehicle. She's too tired to check. Too cold to care. She opens the rear door and slides into leather seats that smell like expensive cologne and danger. The door closes behind her. The locks click. 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 That sound, so small, so simple, changes Sally Carey's life forever. Because the man driving this car isn't Ramon. His name is Jeffrey Walls, and he's the most dangerous man on Chicago's South Side. Drug trafficking, protection rackets, political corruption. Jeffrey's fingerprints are on everything, but he's never spent a day in prison because he's too smart, too connected, and too ruthless. Tonight, Jeffrey is driving himself, a rarity, because he's just handled a betrayal within his organization. Personally, violently. And he's processing it the only way he knows how, alone, in motion, thinking through his next moves. He wasn't expecting a passenger, and Sally wasn't expecting to become a prisoner. But fate, coincidence, or maybe just terrible luck has just put two broken people in the same enclosed space on the loneliest night of the year. Sally's about to learn that monsters aren't always what they seem. And Jeffrey's about to discover that invisibility can be a weapon, and that the woman trembling in his back seat might be the most dangerous person he's ever met. This is the story of the wrong car, the locked doors, and the choice that defines everything. Do you run from danger, or do you learn to dance with it? Welcome to the most unconventional Christmas story you've ever heard. Christmas Eve, 12:04 a.m. Downtown Chicago. Sally Carey wipes down her last table at Murphy's Diner, her feet screaming after an 11-hour double shift. The diner is nearly empty now, just a drunk couple arguing in corner booth and Eddie, the night cook, cleaning the grill. Her manager, Ruth, appears with an envelope. "Merry Christmas, honey. Little something extra." Sally opens it. $50. It's kind, but it's also a reminder that $50 is something extra in her life. Most people her age are at holiday parties or with family. Sally's going home to a studio apartment with a space heater that barely works and a cat she found in an alley last month. She pulls out her phone, orders a rideshare. The app confirms, gray Toyota Camry, driver Ramon, from minutes away. Sally steps outside into Chicago's brutal December wind. Snow is falling, the pretty kind that looks magical in movies but feels hostile when you're waiting on a street corner at midnight. Her coat is from a thrift store, her gloves have holes, her boots leak. Across the street, Christmas lights blink in store windows displaying things Sally will never afford. A car pulls up to the curb. Sleek. Black. Expensive. Sally's exhausted brain processes. Must have changed the vehicle. App does that sometimes. She doesn't look at the license plate. Doesn't check the driver's face. Just opens the rear door and slides into warmth and leather seats that smell like money. The door closes behind her. Click, 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 click. All 4 locks engage simultaneously. Sally looks up. The driver is turning around, and he's not Ramon. He's maybe late 30s, dark hair, sharp features, wearing an expensive suit that probably costs more than Sally makes in 6 months. His eyes are cold blue, assessing her with an intensity that makes Sally's skin crawl. Sally says, reaching for the door handle. I think there's been a mistake. This isn't my ride. I know, the man says calmly. Sally pulls the handle. Locked. She tries the window controls. Disabled. Let me out. Her voice is steady despite rising panic. No. The car begins moving, pulling smoothly into traffic. Sally's heart hammers. She's heard the statistics, watched the true crime documentaries. Women disappear all the time in cities like Chicago. Some are found. Most aren't. I don't have any money, Sally says, trying to keep fear out of her voice. I work at a diner. I'm nobody. There's nothing you can get from kidnapping me. The man glances at her in the rearview mirror. I'm not kidnapping you for money, Sally. The use of her name makes ice flood Sally's veins. How do you know my name? Your name tag. You're still wearing it. Sally looks down. Shit. The little plastic rectangle pinned to her shirt. Sally, Murphy's Diner. Have a nice day. Who are you? Sally demands. The man is quiet for a long moment, navigating through late-night traffic with practiced ease. Finally, my name is Jeffrey Walls. The name triggers something in Sally's memory. She's heard it before. On the news? In the newspaper? Then it hits her. Jeffrey Walls. Suspected organized crime figure. The news story from 3 months ago about the federal investigation that went nowhere. The man they couldn't touch despite everyone knowing exactly what he was. Mafia boss. Drug lord. The king of Chicago's South Side. And Sally just climbed into his car like an idiot. Oh God, Sally whispers. Relax, Jeffrey says, almost amused. If I wanted to hurt you, you'd already be hurt. We're just going for a drive. Where? Nowhere specific. I like to drive when I need to think. About what? Jeffrey's eyes meet hers in the mirror. About how the man I trusted to manage my finances has been selling information to my competitors for 6 months. About how I discovered this betrayal 3 hours ago and handled it personally. About how sometimes the loneliest night of the year is Christmas Eve when you're surrounded by people who fear you, but no one who actually knows you. The honesty is unexpected, unsettling. So let me go, Sally says. I won't tell anyone. I just want to go home. To what? Jeffrey asks. That apartment in Pilsen with the broken heat? The job that pays minimum wage plus tips? The life where you're invisible. Sally's anger flares. You don't know anything about my life. Don't I? Jeffrey takes a turn onto Lake Shore Drive, the frozen expanse of Lake Michigan spreading out beside them. You work doubles 6 days a week. You live alone except for a stray cat. You haven't had a meaningful conversation with another human being in months. You're 28 years old, and you've already accepted that this is all your life will ever be. Fuck you, Sally spits. You don't get to judge me. I'm not judging. I'm observing. Jeffrey's voice is maddeningly calm. You know what I noticed about you, Sally? 3 weeks ago, you were working when a drunk customer grabbed your coworker's ass. You didn't call the manager. You stepped between them and told the customer if he touched her again, you'd personally ensure he left in an ambulance. He was twice your size. You didn't care. Sally remembers that night. The rush of adrenaline. The satisfaction when the drunk asshole actually backed down. You were watching me 3 weeks ago? I eat at Murphy's sometimes. Late night. After handling business. Your diner makes decent coffee. Jeffrey shrugs. I noticed you because you didn't notice me. Everyone else in that diner tracked my movements, adjusted their behavior. You treated me like I was invisible. Like I was nobody. Do you have any idea how rare that is? So what? You developed a creepy stalker obsession. I developed an interest. Jeffrey pulls the car into a scenic overlook. Deserted at this hour, just snow and the dark lake and the distant glow of the city. He puts the car in park, but doesn't unlock the doors. He turns fully to face Sally. Here's the truth. I'm lonely. I'm powerful. I'm feared. I'm rich. And I'm profoundly, crushingly lonely. Everyone I interact with wants something from me or is terrified of me. No one tells me the truth. No one challenges me. No one sees me as anything other than what I can do to them or for them. That's a you problem, Sally says. Not a reason to kidnap a waitress. You're right. It's not. Jeffrey's expression shifts, something almost vulnerable flickering across his features. But when I saw you get into my car by mistake, when I heard you tell me to let you out with that tone that said you weren't asking, you were demanding, something in me decided not to. Because for the first time in years, I wanted to talk to someone who didn't know who I was. Someone who wouldn't lie to me or try to manipulate me. I know who you are now, Sally points out. Yes. And you're angry instead of terrified. That's even better. They stare at each other. Sally in her stained diner uniform and cheap coat. Jeffrey in his $1,000 suit and position of absolute power. What do you want from me? Sally asks quietly. Company, Jeffrey says simply. For one night. Christmas Eve. I want to talk to someone real. And in exchange, I won't hurt you. I'll feed you something better than diner food. And maybe, just maybe, we'll both feel less alone. And if I refuse, then I'll take you home. Right now. No harm done. Jeffrey's hand moves to the door lock control. But I don't think you'll refuse. Why not? Because you're just as lonely as I am. And because, despite the fear, there's a part of you that's curious. That wants to know what happens when someone finally sees you. Sally should demand to be taken home. Should scream. Should do literally anything except what she does next. I want food first, Sally says. Real food. Not gas station sandwiches. If I'm spending Christmas Eve with a Mafia boss, I'm not doing it hungry. Jeffrey's smile is genuine, transforming his face from intimidating to almost handsome. Deal. He starts the car, and Sally Carey, who made the wrong choice getting into this vehicle, makes another choice entirely. She stays. Not because she has to, but because for the first time in years, someone is actually listening when she speaks. The car pulls back onto the road, and Sally's old life fades in the rearview mirror. Pause. Did Sally just agree to spend Christmas Eve with a literal Mafia boss? Girl, we need to have a conversation about your survival instincts. But also, I'm weirdly invested now. If you're not subscribed yet, fix that immediately because this story is about to get wild. Drop a comment. Would you have demanded to go home or stay for the free food? Be honest. Let's continue. Jeffrey drives them to a restaurant Sally has walked past 100 times, but never imagined entering. Rossi's, an upscale Italian place where reservations book months in advance and entrees cost what Sally makes in a day. At 1 a.m. on Christmas morning, it should be closed. It's not. Jeffrey parks in a loading zone, because who's going to ticket him, and leads Sally through a side entrance. Inside, the restaurant is empty except for one table set near a fireplace. Candles already lit. You planned this, Sally accuses. I called ahead while you were contemplating your life choices in the back seat. A server appears. Older woman, professional, completely unsurprised by Jeffrey's presence. Mr. Walls, your table is ready. They sit. Sally feels absurdly out of place in her diner uniform, but Jeffrey doesn't seem to notice or care. Order whatever you want, he says, handing her a menu with no prices. Sally scans options she can't pronounce. What do you recommend? The osso buco is exceptional. So is the lobster risotto. I'll have both, Sally decides. And wine. Something expensive. Jeffrey actually laughs. I like your style. The server takes their order without writing anything down. When she leaves, Sally and Jeffrey are alone in the cavernous restaurant, firelight casting dancing shadows. So, Sally says, is this where you tell me your tragic backstory, and I'm supposed to feel sympathy for the poor misunderstood crime lord? Would you feel sympathy? Probably not. But I'm curious anyway. Jeffrey considers her. I grew up in Englewood. My father ran numbers for the Irish mob. My mother cleaned houses. I was smart, tested into a magnet high school, could have gone to college. But my father was killed when I was 16 in a territory dispute. My mother couldn't afford rent. I had two choices. Watch us end up homeless or join the organization that killed my father. You joined them. I didn't just join them. I took them over by the time I was 25. Turned a street-level operation into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Diversified. Modernized. Built an empire. And lost your humanity in the process. Probably, Jeffrey admits. But I also built something that lasts. I employ 300 people directly, another 1,000 indirectly. I keep neighborhoods safe from worse predators. I'm not a good man, Sally, but I'm not the worst man either. The food arrives, course after course of culinary perfection. Sally eats with the enthusiasm of someone who usually survives on ramen and determination. Between bites, they talk. Really talk. Jeffrey asks about her childhood. Sally's honest. Foster care, group homes, aging out of the system with nothing. No family reunions. No safety net. Just survival. That's why you're not afraid, Jeffrey observes. You've already lived through worse than I could threaten. I'm still afraid, Sally corrects. I'm just used to being afraid. There's a difference. What scares you most? Sally thinks about it. Staying invisible forever. Dying and having no one notice. Working until I'm 80 and having nothing to show for it but scars and exhaustion. What do you want instead? To matter. To be seen. To build something that proves I existed. Sally laughs bitterly. Generic dreams for a waitress, right? Not generic. Human. Jeffrey refills her wine. I can give you that, you know. Give me what? Visibility. Matching. A life where people see you. In exchange for what? Becoming your what? Mistress? Trophy? Prisoner? In exchange for staying, Jeffrey says simply, not as property, as a person I actually enjoy talking to. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my world? Sally studies him. He's serious. This terrifying, powerful man is genuinely asking her to choose his company. This is insane, Sally says. Probably. You're a criminal. Definitely. I should run screaming. You should, but you won't. Why are you so sure? Jeffrey leans forward, his blue eyes intense in the candlelight. Because you're already calculating what you'd gain. You're smart, Sally. You know this is an opportunity disguised as danger. You know I'm offering you a way out of invisibility. And you're brave enough to consider taking it. He's right. And Sally hates that he's right. I'm not sleeping with you, she says firmly. I didn't ask you to. I'm not doing anything illegal. Noted. And if I decide to leave, I'll drive you home myself. No questions asked. Jeffrey's expression is sincere. I'm not keeping you prisoner, Sally. I'm offering you a choice. Their eyes lock across the table. Sally makes her decision. 1 week, she says. I'll stay 1 week. See what this life is actually like. Then I decide if I'm in or out. 1 week, Jeffrey agrees. They shake hands across the table. A business deal, a pact, the beginning of something neither can fully predict. The server brings dessert. Outside, snow continues to fall on a city where Sally Carey is about to discover she's not invisible at all. She's about to become the most visible person in Jeffrey Wall's world. At 3 a.m., Jeffrey drives them to his penthouse in the Gold Coast. 43rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, the kind of real estate that appears in architecture magazines. But Sally notices the security first. Cameras, biometric scanners, armed guards in the lobby who nod respectfully at Jeffrey. This is a fortress, Sally observes in the elevator. I have enemies. Precautions are necessary. The penthouse itself is stunning and sterile. Expensive furniture that looks uncomfortable. Art that's impressive but cold. Everything perfect and nothing personal. This looks like a showroom, Sally says. That's because no one lives here. I exist here. Jeffrey removes his suit jacket, and Sally sees for the first time the shoulder holster and gun underneath. Guest room is down that hall. Bathroom is stocked. Clothes in the closet might fit you. I keep sizes 4S. How many guests do you have? You're the first in 3 years. Sally doesn't know how to process that. Where's your room? Other side of the penthouse. You'll have privacy. Jeffrey shows Sally to a room that's bigger than her entire apartment. King bed, private bathroom with a shower that has more settings than her car. Get some rest, Jeffrey says. Tomorrow, today, technically, we'll talk about what staying actually means. He turns to leave. Jeffrey. He stops. Thank you. For the dinner. For not being worse than you are. Something shifts in his expression. Get some sleep, Sally. He leaves, and Sally is alone in luxury she's never experienced. She should be terrified. Should be planning an escape. Instead, she takes the longest, hottest shower of her life, puts on a silk robe she finds in the closet, and falls asleep in sheets with a thread count higher than her credit score. For the first time in years, Sally Carey feels safe. Even if that safety comes from the most dangerous man in Chicago. Okay, real talk. If you were Sally right now, would you A, run the first chance you get, B, stay for exactly 1 week like you promised, or C, just fully commit to this insane situation? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you think Sally's making terrible life choices, you're probably right, but also subscribe because it gets so much more complicated. Let's continue. Sally woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the disorienting sensation of not knowing where she was. Then it all came back. The wrong car, the locked doors, Jeffrey Walls, Christmas dinner at 1 a.m., and the decision to stay for 1 week. She checked her phone. 9:47 a.m., December 25th, Christmas morning. 17 missed calls from Ruth at the diner. 5 texts asking if she was okay. Sally typed a quick response. Sick. Won't be in for a few days. Sorry. She got out of the enormous bed and found clothes laid out on a chair. Jeans, a cashmere sweater, even undergarments in exactly her size. The preciseness of it was both thoughtful and unsettling. Sally dressed and ventured out of the guest room. The penthouse looked different in daylight. Still sterile, but the morning sun revealed details she'd missed. Books on shelves that actually looked read, a coffee mug left on the counter, newspapers scattered across the dining table. Evidence of life, not just existence. Good morning. Sally jumped. Jeffrey was sitting at the dining table with a laptop, wearing reading glasses she hadn't seen last night. He looked almost normal, button-down shirt, no tie, focused on whatever was on his screen. You scared me. Saw the coffee's fresh. He gestured to an elaborate espresso machine. Or I can make you breakfast. You cook. I survive. There's a difference. Jeffrey removed his glasses, and the dangerous man from last night returned. How did you sleep? Better than I have in years, which is extremely concerning given the circumstances. That almost smile again. Leo will be here soon. My second in command. He'll want to meet you. Why? Because I've never brought anyone here before, and he needs to assess if you're a threat. I'm a waitress. You're a variable. In my world, variables are dangerous. Jeffrey stood, poured her coffee without asking how she took it. Black, 2 sugars. Somehow he knew. Sally, about last night. I meant what I said. You can leave any time. But if you're staying, even for a week, you need to understand what you're seeing. I already know you're a criminal. Knowing and witnessing are different things. Jeffrey's expression was serious. Today might be difficult. Before Sally could ask what he meant, the penthouse door opened. A man entered, late 40s, built like someone who'd done hard time, with eyes that assessed Sally with professional suspicion. Leo Reeves, Jeffrey introduced. Leo, this is Sally Carey. The waitress, Leo said flatly. The guest, Jeffrey corrected, his tone carrying warning. Leo held up his hands. Your business, boss. But we need to talk. Privately. Sally stays. If she's here, she hears everything. Leo's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He pulled out a tablet, brought up financial records. We got a problem. Someone's been accessing our encrypted accounts. Not stealing yet, just looking. They know about the Miami shipment, the Jersey connections, the offshore holdings. How long? 6 months at least. Could be longer. Jeffrey's expression went cold in a way that made Sally's stomach drop. Who has that level of access? Me, you, and Bernard. Sally watched Jeffrey's face transform, from calm to something predatory and terrifying. Where's Bernard now? His office. He doesn't know we know. Keep it that way. Tell him I need to see him about the Shanghai deal. Warehouse on Throop Street. 1 hour. Leo hesitated. Boss, if it's Bernard, then I'll handle it. Jeffrey's voice was granite. Sally, you're coming with me. What? No, I don't need to. You wanted to see what my life is actually like. This is it. You can stay here and imagine, or you can come and know. Jeffrey's eyes held hers. But you don't get to unsee what you see. Sally thought about the locked doors, about choosing to stay, about wanting visibility. I'll get my coat. The warehouse was in an industrial area Sally recognized from bus routes. The kind of neighborhood where people didn't ask questions about what happened behind closed doors. Jeffrey parked in a loading bay. Leo was already there with two other men Sally didn't recognize. They all carried weapons openly. "He's inside," Leo said. "Thinks you're reviewing the Shanghai contracts." Jeffrey turned to Sally. "Stay in the car. Watch if you want, but stay in the car." She nodded, her mouth too dry to speak. Jeffrey and his men entered the warehouse. Through the dirty windows, Sally could see movement, hear muffled voices. Then Bernard Hayes appeared. 50s expensive suit, the kind of man who looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not a warehouse. Sally couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw Bernard's expression change from confused to defensive to terrified. Jeffrey pulled out his phone, showed Bernard something on the screen. Bernard's face went white. Words were exchanged. Bernard was shaking his head frantically, backing away. Jeffrey drew his gun with the casual ease of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. Bernard fell to his knees, hands raised, mouth moving in what was clearly begging. Jeffrey shot him. Once. Clean. Professional. Bernard crumpled. Sally's hands flew to her mouth, ball rising in her throat. She'd seen violence on TV, in movies, but this was real. The man had been alive, and now he wasn't. And it had taken less than 3 seconds. Jeffrey and his men moved efficiently. Plastic tarps, cleaning solution, the practice choreography of people who'd done this before. 15 minutes later, Jeffrey returned to the car. His hands were clean. His expression was neutral. He slid into the driver's seat and started the engine like he'd just come from a business meeting. Sally couldn't look at him. "You can't unsee it," Jeffrey said quietly as they drove. "That's what I meant. He begged you." Sally's voice was hollow. "He begged, and you killed him anyway. He sold information that would have gotten 20 of my people arrested or killed. He betrayed me for money. In my world, there's only one response to betrayal. You're a murderer. Yes. No denial, no justification. I've killed 17 people personally. Order the deaths of maybe 40 more. I'm exactly what you feared I was when you realized who I was." They drove in silence for several minutes. Sally watched the city pass by, everything looking normal. People Christmas shopping, families walking dogs, the world continuing like nothing terrible had just happened. "Pull over," Sally said suddenly. Jeffrey did, pulling into an empty parking lot. Sally got out of the car and vomited behind a dumpster, her body rejecting what she'd witnessed. When she was done, Jeffrey was standing nearby with a bottle of water. "I should never have brought you," he said, and for the first time he sounded actually regretful. "No." Sally took the water, rinsed her mouth. "You were right. I needed to see it. I needed to know what you actually are. And now you do." "Yeah." Sally straightened, looking at him directly. "Now I know you're dangerous, you're violent, and you're capable of killing without hesitation. So you want me to take you home?" "I didn't say that." Sally got back in the car. "I said I know what you are. I didn't say I was leaving." Jeffrey stared at her. "You just watched me execute a man." "I did, and I'm horrified, and I might have nightmares about it for years. But I also understand why you did it." Sally's voice was steady despite the tremor in her hands. "In my world, people betray you, and you just have to take it. Bosses steal wages. Landlords ignore broken heat. Foster parents neglect kids. And there's nothing you can do because you don't have power. But you have power, and you use it to protect what's yours. That doesn't make it right." "No, but it makes it honest." Sally buckled her seatbelt. "Take me back to the penthouse. We have a week agreement. I'm not breaking it because things got real." Jeffrey studied her for a long moment, then started the car. As they drove, Sally's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We know who you are. We know where you've been. Stay away from Jeffrey Walls if you want to live." Sally's blood ran cold. She showed Jeffrey the text. His expression darkened. "Now, call Leo. Now." Sally dialed from the car system. Leo answered immediately. "Boss, we've been compromised. Someone has Sally's number and they're threatening her." "That's impossible. We swept her phone." Leo's voice cut off. "Then shit. Boss, her phone's GPS is active. They've been tracking her location since she left the diner." "Who? Running trace now. This is bad. It's coming from a Volkov network address." Jeffrey's hands tighten on the wheel. The Volkovs know about Sally. They know she's with me. They're going to come for her. Boss, you need to get back here. Now, we need to secure the penthouse. And the rear window exploded. Glass showered the car as a bullet punched through where Sally's head had been a second ago. She leaned forward to adjust the heat. Jeffrey yanked the wheel hard, the Mercedes fishtailing as more gunfire erupted from a black SUV behind them. Get down, Jeffrey shouted, and Sally threw herself across the back seat as the car accelerated to speeds that shouldn't be possible in city traffic. Chicago blurred past. Jeffrey was weaving through traffic, taking corners at angles that defied physics. The SUV stayed with them, and Sally could hear more bullets impacting metal. Low! Jeffrey barked into the phone. Volkov hit squad on our tail. Lakeshore Drive heading north. I need backup, and I need it now. 5 minutes out. I don't have 5 minutes. Sally lifted her head enough to see the speedometer. 95 miles per hour. In city traffic. On Christmas morning. Jeffrey, Sally shouted. Turn right at the next light. What? There's an alley. I know it. Use a cut-through on the bus. It's too narrow for the SUV. Jeffrey didn't question. He took the turn so hard the Mercedes went up on 2 wheels for a second. The alley Sally remembered appeared, barely wider than the car, lined with dumpsters. Behind them, the SUV tried to follow and clipped a dumpster, spinning out. Jeffrey threaded through the alley at speeds that made Sally pray. Emerging onto a side street Sally actually recognized, near her old neighborhood. Left, then immediate right, then straight 3 blocks, Sally directed. There's an abandoned factory. We can hide. Jeffrey followed her directions, and minutes later, they were inside a decrepit building Sally had explored as a teenager when she'd run away from a particularly bad foster home. Jeffrey killed the engine. They sat in darkness, listening to their own breathing and distant sirens. How did you know about this place? Jeffrey asked. I've been invisible my whole life, Sally said. You learn the city's hiding spots. They waited in silence. Sally could see bullet holes in the car's rear panel. They'd come within inches of dying. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. You can't hide from us. He can't protect you. Leave now or die with him. Sally showed Jeffrey. They're not bluffing, Jeffrey said quietly. The Volkovs don't make empty threats. If they've decided your target, they'll keep coming. Because I'm with you. Because they think hurting you hurts me. And they're right. Jeffrey turned to face her in the dim light. I can protect you, Sally. But it means war. A real war. Pipa Vildi. The city will bleed. Is that what you want? Sally thought about the life she'd left behind. The invisibility. The loneliness. The slow death of spirit that came from not maturing. Then she thought about the last 18 hours. Being seen. Being heard. Feeling alive for the first time in years. I'm not leaving, Sally said. Not because I'm brave. Because going back to being invisible is worse than being a target. Jeffrey stared at her, then pulled her into a sudden, fierce kiss. It was desperate, fueled by adrenaline and danger and the reality that they'd both almost died. Sally kissed him back, pouring all her fear and defiance and reckless choice into the contact. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Jeffrey said, If you stay, there's no going back. You understand that. I understand. Then we fight. Together. Leo's backup arrived 10 minutes later. 3 black SUVs, heavily armed men who swept the area before declaring it secure. As they drove back to the penthouse in an armed convoy, Sally realized she'd crossed another threshold. She'd witnessed murder. She'd been shot at. She'd kissed a Mafia boss in an abandoned factory. And she'd chosen to stay. 1 week, she'd promised. But Sally was starting to suspect 1 week would turn into something much longer. If they survived long enough to find out. They didn't make it back to the penthouse. Leo called when they were 10 minutes out. Boss, we've got a situation. Volkov people are watching the building. At least 6 we've identified, probably more. If you come here, you're walking into a trap. Jeffrey cursed. Safe houses. They've been hitting them. 3 compromised in the last hour. They've got our locations. Ow! Bernard. Had to be. He had access to emergency protocols. Sally watched Jeffrey's face cycle through anger, calculation, and decision. Then we disappear. Go dark until we can regroup. Boss, you can't just vanish. The organization needs me alive. Radio silence until further notice. Leo, you're in command. Handle anyone who tries to make moves. I'll contact you in 24 hours with new protocols. Jeffrey hung up and changed direction, heading away from downtown. Where are we going? Sally asked. I have one location Bernard didn't know about. A place I bought under a completely different identity. It's small, basic, but it's off the grid. 45 minutes later, they pulled up to a modest house in a working-class suburb Sally recognized as Cicero, the kind of neighborhood where Jeffrey's Mercedes stood out like a sore thumb. This is yours, Sally asked as Jeffrey led her inside. Bought it 5 years ago. Never told anyone. I come here sometimes when I need to think without 20 people asking me questions. He locked the door behind them, immediately checking windows, drawing curtains. It's not the penthouse. It's perfect. The house was small, 2 bedrooms, outdated kitchen, furniture from the 90s. But it felt real in a way the penthouse never had. There's a panic room in the basement, Jeffrey said, showing Sally a hidden door behind a bookshelf. If anyone finds us, you go there. It's reinforced steel, has supplies for a week, and a direct line to Leo. What about you? I'll handle whoever comes. They spent the rest of Christmas Day in strange domesticity. Jeffrey found frozen pizza in the freezer. Sally discovered the house had an actual Christmas tree. Small, fake, but decorated. You celebrate Christmas? She asked. The previous owners left it. I never took it down. Jeffrey stood next to her, looking at the tree's blinking lights. Seemed wasteful. You're a crime boss with a Christmas tree. The irony is beautiful. I'm a man who kills people for a living who just spent Christmas dinner with a woman I kidnapped by accident. The whole situation is ironic. They ate pizza on a couch that had seen better days, watching the news report on a gang violence incident on Lakeshore Drive. No mention of Sally or Jeffrey. Do you ever wish you'd made different choices? Sally asked. Every day, and never. Jeffrey set down his pizza. I did what I had to do to survive. Then I did what I had to do to win. Now I do what I have to do to maintain. It's a treadmill. Once you're on, stopping means dying. You could walk away, take the money and disappear. To what? I've been this for 20 years. I don't know how to be anything else. He looked at her. But you could. You still can. I meant what I said. New identity, money, safety. You could start over anywhere. And be invisible again. You'd be alive. I've been alive for 28 years. I only started living yesterday. Sally shifted to face him. I'm not leaving, Jeffrey. Stop asking. You're insane. Probably. But so are you for wanting me to stay. They kissed again, slower this time, deliberate. Jeffrey's hands tangled in Sally's hair, and she pressed closer, feeling his heartbeat against hers. When they broke apart, Jeffrey said, We should sleep. Tomorrow we figure out how to end this. He showed Sally to the guest bedroom. Small, clean, anonymous. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer. Will you? Will I what? Feel safer if I lock it? Jeffrey smiled, genuine, almost boyish. I'd feel safer if you stayed in my room where I can protect you. But I won't push. Sally considered. Every instinct said she was making terrible decisions. But her instincts had kept her alive and miserable for 28 years. Your room, she decided. But just sleeping. I'm not. Just sleeping, Jeffrey agreed. They lay in his bed in the dark, fully clothed, close but not touching. Sally, yeah. Is that good or bad? Don't know yet. But it's real. Jeffrey emerged an hour later, arm in a sling, face pale but composed. Let's go home. Which home? Sally asked. The real one. The penthouse. If they want war, we'll give them war. But we do it from a position of strength. The convoy took them back to the Gold Coast as dawn broke on December 26th. The building's security had been tripled. The penthouse looked like a military installation. Inside, Jeffrey collapsed onto the couch with visible exhaustion. You should rest, Sally said. In a minute. He looked at her with an intensity that made Sally's breath catch. We need to talk about what happens next. Okay. You've been in my world for 2 days. You've witnessed murder, been shot at, fought off attackers, and saved my life. Most people would be catatonic. You're still standing. Trauma response. Give me a few hours, and I'll probably have a breakdown. Sally. Jeffrey's voice was serious. The week trial period? It's meaningless now. The Volkovs know about you. They'll keep coming. Your only options are to disappear completely. New identity, new life, or to stay with me permanently. There's no middle ground. Sally walked to the windows, looking out at Chicago in the early morning light. Somewhere out, there was Murphy's diner, her crappy apartment, the life she'd lived for years. She thought about Ruth and Eddie and the regular customers who never tipped well. She thought about the broken heater and the cat she'd found and the crushing loneliness of invisibility. Then she thought about the last 48 hours. Being seen, being heard, matching. If I stay, Sally said slowly, what does that mean? Am I your girlfriend? Your employee? You're what? My partner, Jeffrey said without hesitation. Not in the business necessarily, though you'd have access to everything if you wanted it. But in life, someone who knows everything and chooses to stay anyway. That's insane. Yes, we barely know each other. We know the most important things. I know you're brave, you're smart, and you don't run when things get hard. You know I'm dangerous, I'm broken, and I'll do terrible things to protect what's mine. I'm not a possession. No, you're a person I'm choosing. There's a difference. Jeffrey stood, crossed to where she was standing. Sally, I'm not offering you safety. I'm not promising happily ever after. What I'm offering is visibility, partnership, and the resources to build something that matters. But it comes with danger, violence, and moral complexity. Sally turned to face him. And if I leave, if I take the new identity, then I'll miss you every day for the rest of my life. But I'll respect your choice. The honesty was devastating. Sally thought about everything she'd seen. The violence, the danger, the way Jeffrey had killed without hesitation but held her with surprising gentleness. The contradiction of a man who controlled an empire but couldn't control his own loneliness. I'm staying, Sally said. Not for 1 week. Permanently. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Jeffrey pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. You're the bravest person I've ever met. I'm the stupidest person you've ever met. That too. They kissed, and this time it felt like sealing a pact. Not just attraction, but commitment to something neither could fully predict. When it broke apart, Sally said, but we have ground rules. Name them. I'm not just sitting in this penthouse looking pretty. If I'm in your world, I'm actually in it. I'll learn the business. I have a voice. I'm not decorative. Agreed. And I keep one connection to my old life. 1 shift a week at Murphy's diner. I need to stay grounded. That's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. But I need it to remember who I was so I don't lose who I'm becoming. Jeffrey considered, then nodded. 1 shift, but with security. Deal. And one more thing. What? We're honest. About everything. No lies, no manipulation. If we're doing this, we're doing it real. Real, Jeffrey agreed. Even when the truth is ugly. Especially when the truth is ugly. They shook hands like business partners, then kissed like lovers. And somewhere between those two things, Sally Carey and Jeffrey Walls began building something that was entirely their own. Outside, Chicago woke to another day. The Volkov crime family was planning their next move. Law enforcement was tracking patterns they didn't fully understand. The city continued its relentless forward motion. And in a penthouse fortress, a former waitress and a mafia boss started figuring out how to survive together in a world that wanted them both dead. Okay, can we acknowledge that Sally just chose to permanently stay with a man she met 2 days ago who kidnapped her? Like, girl, this is not how healthy relationships start. But also, I'm so invested I can't even judge. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button because the next 2 chapters are going to be wild. Drop a comment. Is Sally making the best or worst decision of her life? Let's find out together. The next 72 hours were masterclass in strategic violence. Jeffrey didn't just react to the Volkov attacks. He systematically dismantled their organization with surgical precision. Sally watched and learned. This is their distribution hub in Pilsen, Jeffrey explained, showing Sally surveillance photos on his laptop. They move product through here 3 times a week. Leo's team is going to hit it tonight at 2 a.m. when they're mid-transfer. You're stealing their drugs? I'm burning them, costing them money, making them look weak to suppliers. Jeffrey pulled up another file. This is their money man, Theodore Klein. He launders through a chain of laundromats. We're going to have the IRS audit every single one. You can do that. I have friends in useful places. Sally was sitting beside Jeffrey at his desk, learning the architecture of modern gang warfare. It wasn't street violence anymore. It was financial manipulation, legal pressure, strategic targeting of infrastructure. The Volkovs expected me to go to war like it's the 1990s, Jeffrey said. Blood in the streets, public shootings, chaos. But that's amateur hour. Real power is about making your enemies spend money they don't have, fight battles they can't win, and lose face they can't recover. Over the next 3 days, Leo's team destroyed $2 million worth of Volkov product in coordinated raids. Federal agents, tipped anonymously, seized 3 Volkov properties for code violations. Key Volkov distributors received better offers from Jeffrey and switched sides. Theodore Klein was arrested for tax evasion, evidence provided by Jeffrey's forensic accountants. The Volkov organization began hemorrhaging money and credibility. But they weren't going quietly. December 29th, 3 a.m. Sally was asleep in Jeffrey's bed. They'd been sharing since the Cicero attack, proximity born of trauma and growing connection, when alarms shrieked through the penthouse. She jolted awake. Jeffrey was already moving, pulling on pants, grabbing weapons. What's happening? They're here. Full assault. Jeffrey handed Sally a gun, compact Glock she'd been training with for the past 2 days. Remember what I taught you? Point, breathe, squeeze. Don't jerk the trigger. Good girl. Stay with me. Don't be brave. Stay alive. They moved into the penthouse's main room. Leo and his security team were taking positions at windows and doors. On the monitors, Sally could see what looked like a small army assembling outside the building. 20-plus hostiles, Leo reported. They've got heavy weapons. This isn't a raid, it's a siege. How long until police? They're jamming communications. And I'm betting they've paid off response times. We're on our own for at least 15 minutes. Then we hold for 15 minutes. The attack came in waves. First, snipers trying to pick off Jeffrey's people through windows. The bulletproof glass held, but the sustained fire was designed to keep everyone pinned. Second, breaching charges on the reinforced doors. The explosions rocked the entire floor, but the doors held, barely. Third, assault teams pouring through emergency stairwells. That's when the real fighting started. Jeffrey's team was outnumbered but better positioned. They'd trained for this exact scenario, turning the penthouse into a killing field for anyone who breached. Sally stayed behind cover as Jeffrey had taught her, watching, learning, trying not to think about the fact that people were dying in her line of sight. As she saw something on the monitors that made her blood freeze. Jeffrey. Service elevator. They're coming up the service elevator. It was the route she'd noticed weeks ago, the one building maintenance used. It bypassed the main security and came up behind the kitchen. Jeffrey was pinned down by gunfire in the main room. Leo was engaging attackers in the hallway. No one was watching the kitchen. Sally made a decision. She grabbed her gun and moved. The service elevator opened in the kitchen, and 3 armed men stepped out. They weren't expecting anyone. Their weapons were lowered as they oriented themselves. Sally stepped out from behind the industrial refrigerator and fired. The first shot went high. Adrenaline made her aim shaky. But she corrected like Jeffrey had taught her. The second shot hit the lead attacker in the chest. He went down hard. The other 2 spun toward her, raising weapons, and Sally fired again, squeezing the trigger until the slide locked back empty. 2 more bodies dropped. Sally stood shaking, the gun smoking in her hands, staring at what she'd done. She just killed 3 people. Sally. Jeffrey appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyes wild. When he saw the bodies, saw her standing there, his expression cycled through shock, pride, and fierce protectiveness. I saw them on the monitor, Sally said, her voice distant. They were coming. No one was watching. You saved us. Jeffrey crossed to her, gently took the empty gun from her trembling hands. You saved all of us. I killed them. You survived. He pulled her against his chest, and Sally could hear his heart hammering. You did what you had to do. The gunfire in the rest of the penthouse was dying down. Leo's voice over the radio. Boss, they're retreating. We held. Jeffrey held Sally for another moment, then, Leo, do we have any captured? 2 wounded. One's talking. Good. Give me names. I want to know who ordered this and where they're staging from. Sally pulled back, looking at Jeffrey. What are you going to do? End this. Tonight. The Volkovs just proved they'll never stop. So I'm going to give them a reason to. 3 hours later, at dawn on December 29th, Jeffrey walked into the warehouse where the Volkov family was regrouping. He walked in alone, hands visible, no weapons showing. The Volkovs had maybe 20 men still operational after the failed assault. They were exhausted, bloodied, and furious. Viktor Volkov, the patriarch, 60-something, built like a bear, stood as Jeffrey entered. You've got balls walking in here, Walls. I've got a proposal, Jeffrey said calmly. You stop coming after me and Sally, pull out of the South Side entirely, and in exchange, I let you keep breathing. Your operation in the suburbs can continue. Your drug routes through Wisconsin stay yours. But Chicago? That's mine. You think you can dictate terms after we nearly killed you tonight? Nearly doesn't count. I'm here. Your people aren't. Jeffrey's voice went cold. Victor, you've lost $5 million in product. Your money man is facing federal charges. 6 of your distributors have flipped, and your last major assault failed. Your organization is bleeding. I'm offering you a way to stop the bleeding before it's terminal. And if I refuse, then tomorrow I release evidence to the FBI connecting you personally to 14 murders. I expose your offshore accounts. I burn every property you own. And I don't stop until your entire bloodline is either dead or in prison. Victor stared at Jeffrey, clearly calculating odds. This is about the girl, isn't it? You're willing to go this far for a waitress. I'm willing to go this far for what's mine. And she is mine. Not as property, as family. You touch her again, you don't just fight me. You fight everyone I can mobilize. And Victor? I can mobilize a lot. The standoff lasted 30 seconds that felt like hours. Then Victor nodded. You get the South Side. We keep the suburbs. But this ends. Today. Today? Jeffrey agreed. They didn't shake hands. Didn't need to. In their world, a verbal agreement backed by mutual threat was stronger than any contract. Jeffrey walked out of the warehouse and got into the car where Leo was waiting. You think he'll honor it? Leo asked. For now. He knows I meant every word. And if he doesn't, we'll burn him down. Jeffrey pulled out his phone. Take me home. Home. When had the penthouse become home? Since Sally was there, Jeffrey realized. Sally was standing at the windows when Jeffrey returned. She'd cleaned up, changed clothes, but she still looked haunted. It's over, Jeffrey said. The Volkovs agreed to terms. They leave us alone. They pull out of the city. Just like that. Just like that. Sally turned to face him. I killed 3 people tonight. I know. Does it get easier? No. It gets more distant. The faces blur. The guilt becomes background noise. But it never goes away completely. Jeffrey crossed to her. Sally, if you want to leave after this. I don't. You should. Normal people don't kill and keep going. Normal people fall apart. I'm not normal people. I'm someone who chose to stay in the wrong car. Sally's laugh was bitter. 3 days ago, I was a waitress. Now what am I, Jeffrey? You're someone who survived. Someone who fought. Someone who... He stopped himself. Someone who what? Someone I love, Jeffrey finished quietly. The admission hung in the air. You barely know me, Sally said. I know you're brave when you should be terrified. I know you chose me when anyone sane would have run. I know you saved my life twice. That's enough. That's not love. That's trauma bonding. Maybe, or maybe trauma just accelerates what was always going to happen. Jeffrey took her hands. I'm not asking you to say it back. I'm just telling you the truth. You wanted honesty. That's as honest as I can be. Sally looked at this man who'd locked the doors of his car and changed her life. Who'd killed to protect her. Who'd offered her visibility when she'd been invisible. Who'd given her a choice when she'd expected captivity. I don't know if I love you, Sally said. But I know I don't want to be anywhere else. That's enough for now. They stood together at the windows as the sun rose on December 29th. Somewhere in the city, the Volkov family was retreating. Somewhere, law enforcement was investigating gang violence they'd never solve. Somewhere, life continued normally. And in the penthouse, two people who'd met by accident and stayed by choice began figuring out what came next. 1 month later, late January, Sally stood outside Murphy's diner at 5:45 a.m., preparing for her weekly shift. A black Mercedes was parked across the street. Leo in the driver's seat, providing the security Jeffrey insisted on. She still worked Wednesdays, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Same diner, same uniform, same customers who barely noticed her. Except Sally wasn't invisible anymore. Ruth noticed it immediately when Sally walked in. "Well, look who finally came back," Ruth said with a smile. "Thought you'd quit on me after that sick week you took at Christmas. Sorry about that. Things got complicated." "Things or a man?" Ruth's knowing look made Sally laugh. "Both." The shift was exactly what Sally needed. Normal, exhausting, grounding. She poured coffee, took orders, dealt with the drunk businessman who tried to grab her ass. She broke his finger, efficiently and without drama. Knew Sally had skills. At 2 p.m., she clocked out and found Leo waiting. "How was the civilian experience?" Leo asked as they drove. "Perfect. It reminded me who I was before." "And who are you now?" "Still figuring that out." Back at the penthouse, Sally found Jeffrey in his office, reviewing contracts for a new legitimate business venture, a chain of security consulting firms that would actually make legal money. "How was work?" he asked without looking up. Ruth asked if I had a man. I told her it was complicated. "Accurate." Sally sat on his desk. "Jeffrey, we need to talk about what I'm doing here." He finally looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I can't just be your girlfriend who shows up at meetings. I need purpose, direction, something that's mine." "What do you want?" Sally had been thinking about this for weeks. "I want to help the kids. The ones like me, foster system, aged out, no support. I want to use your resources to create something that actually helps." "Like what?" "A foundation, job training, housing assistance, mentorship, all the things I didn't have when I was 18 and terrified." Jeffrey smiled. "You want to use mob money to help disadvantaged youth. I want to use your money to fix a system that's broken. Is that a problem?" "It's brilliant." Jeffrey pulled her into his lap. "Set up. I'll fund it. But you run it. Your vision, your rules." "Really? Really?" "The Sally Carey Foundation for Youth Services. Has a nice ring. That's a terrible name. So pick a better one. But do it. Give back what you didn't get." Sally kissed him, deep, grateful, genuine. "You're not as bad as you pretend to be. I'm exactly as bad as I am. I just have one good instinct." That evening, Jeffrey took Sally to an organization meeting. Not the violent side of his business, but the legitimate operations, the restaurants, the security firms, the real estate holdings. 30 people gathered in a hotel conference room. "Everyone," Jeffrey announced, "this is Sally Carey. She's my partner in every sense. She has full authority to speak for me on matters of organizational direction. What she says carries the same weight as what I say. Respect her accordingly." The room full of dangerous men and women nodded. Sally had proven herself in the Volkov War. They'd seen her fight. They knew she'd saved Jeffrey's life. She wasn't a liability. She was an asset. After the meeting, Leo pulled Sally aside. "You did good," he said. "Boss is different now. Calmer. More focused. You're good for him." "He's good for me too," Sally admitted. "In a deeply dysfunctional way. All the best relationships are." Late that night, Sally and Jeffrey stood at the penthouse windows, their spot, their ritual. "Do you ever regret it?" Sally asked. "Getting in that car?" Jeffrey pulled her close. "Every practical part of my brain says I should. You're a complication, a vulnerability, someone my enemies can use against me. But you're also the first person in 20 years who sees me as more than a weapon or a resource. You see the man, not just the monster. You're both. That's the point. And you're okay with that?" "I'm learning to be." Sally turned in his arms. "Jeffrey, I'm never going to be normal. This life, it changed me. I killed people. I made choices I can't take back. Do you want to take them back?" "No. That's what scares me most. I should feel more guilt. Should want my old life back. But I don't. I like who I'm becoming. You're becoming powerful, visible, effective. I'm becoming dangerous, Sally corrected. And I'm not sure that's entirely bad. They stood in comfortable silence, two people bound by choices and chaos, and something neither could fully name. You know what the truly crazy thing is? Sally said eventually. What? If you hadn't locked those doors on Christmas Eve, I'd still be invisible, still alone, still slowly dying in a life that didn't matter. She looked up at him. You're a criminal, Jeffrey Walls. You've done terrible things. But you also gave me the greatest gift anyone ever has. What's that? You saw me when no one else could. Jeffrey kissed her forehead. I saw you because you were worth seeing. 3 months later. Spring. The Sally Carey Foundation for Youth Services opened its first facility, a combination job training center, temporary housing, and mentorship program in the same neighborhood where Sally grew up. The opening ceremony was attended by politicians who had no idea they were celebrating a project funded by mob money. Jeffrey stayed in the background, watching Sally cut the ribbon, watching her speech to at-risk teens about survival and choice and building something for nothing. Afterward, a 17-year-old girl approached Sally, skinny, guarded, with eyes that said she'd seen too much too young. Is it really true, the girl asked, that you aged out of foster care and made something of yourself? It's true, Sally said. I was exactly where you are. Scared, alone, trying to figure out how to survive. How did you do it? Sally thought about Christmas Eve, about locked doors and wrong cars and choices that saved her life and damned her soul in equal measure. I got lucky, Sally said honestly. I met someone who saw potential in me, and I was brave enough to take a chance that terrified me. That's all any of us can do. Be ready when opportunity shows up, even if it looks like danger. The girl nodded, absorbing this. As she walked away, Jeffrey appeared beside Sally. Good advice. Edited advice. Left out the part about my opportunity being a kidnapping. Details. They walked to the car together. Different model now, after the Volkov attacks, but same essential protection. Leo driving. Security following. Are you happy? Jeffrey asked as they drove. Sally considered the question seriously. I am complicated. I'm building something good with money from bad sources. I'm in love with a criminal. I've killed people. I've made choices I can never undo. But yeah, I'm happy. Good. Because I am too. For the first time in 20 years, I'm actually happy. All because you kidnapped the wrong waitress. Best mistake I ever made. The story ends where it began. Christmas Eve, 1 year later. Sally was dressed in an expensive coat now, designer boots, the visible markers of wealth. But she was standing outside Murphy's diner, looking at the place that used to define her. Jeffrey stood beside her, both of them watching snow fall on the city. You ready? He asked. For what? Ruth invited us for Christmas dinner. At her place. Said she wants to meet the man who made you smile again. You're willing to have dinner with my former boss? She matters to you. That makes her matter to me. They walked to the car. The wrong car that became the right car. The locked doors that became an open future. The mistake that became a choice. Sally Carey was no longer invisible. She was seen, known, powerful, dangerous, and loved. And Jeffrey Walls, the man who ruled Chicago's underworld, had learned that control was meaningless compared to connection. They drove into the night together, two people bound by chaos and choice, and the understanding that sometimes the worst mistake is exactly the decision you needed to make. Happy Christmas, Sally. Happy life, Jeffrey. And to anyone who thinks you can't find family in a locked car on the loneliest night of the year, you're wrong. Sometimes that's exactly where family begins. And that is how you turn a kidnapping into a love story, I guess. Sally went from invisible waitress to Mafia boss's partner, philanthropist, and literal killer in 1 year. If you made it this far without subscribing, what is even wrong? Hit that button right now, turn on notifications, and drop a comment. Is this the most romantic or most toxic story you've ever heard? Honestly, it's both. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next completely unhinged story.